Hey, Daddy, this is the man of the champions, Bill Fonzie Alfonso, giving a shout out to
Something else.
something else, Daddy.
This is Nickel Matata, Great Warrior Wolf, and you are listening to Something Else.
I'm Tony Cini, and you're listening to Something Else.
Hey everybody, it's Rich Palladino, the voice of New England, and you are listening to Something Else with Arya.
And welcome to episode number 119 of Something Else. Feast your ear holes on this week's episode as we are taking a look at NWA Total Nonstop Action from whatever goddamn day this is. August 28th, 2002. My name is Arya, and joining me, as always, is the Don West to my Mike Tenay. It's Cyndi. Cyndi, how you doing today?
I'm feeling Gem Mint 10.
Yes, we're going to sell you for $10,000 to the first person who calls this number right now. $10,000. This, you could get Cyndi easily for 3 times that amount. But today, only on this show, $10,000. Call now.
Be dialing people. You wanna know who else was dialing up stuff?
Rey Mysterio?
No, he was not back yet, so.
He wasn't? He was. He came back in July.
Oh, he was, because SummerSlam happened.
Yes. SummerSlam, dog.
But you wanna know who else was calling up people?
No idea.
Jerry Jarrett.
Yes, he was. This company is going out of business. This is, in fact, part 2 of the first Death of TNA. Now, before we get into the plug for Jerry Jarrett's book, which, by the way, I keep referencing Jerry Jarrett's book, you can buy it on Amazon, or you can continue listening to this show every week, where I'm just going to tell you the important snippets from week to week. Either way. So this week in Jerry Jarrett's book, Jerry has personally signed the $400,000 bond that In Demand has requested, but due to Health South now owning more of the company than they did before, they are on the hook for $275,000 of Jerry's total debt at the moment, so it's not as bad as it sounds. Jerry says that if this wrestling project succeeds, it's the smartest thing he's ever done. If it fails, it's the dumbest thing he's ever done. I can't really say whether it was the smartest or the dumbest, to be honest. At one point in the book, Jerry legitimately says, I think we should stick to basic wrestling and storylines. The fans can get all the WWE type entertainment they can handle. I believe our niche can be great matches. Bro, someone gets it, bro.
Yep.
And my favorite line, now again, this book wasn't really supposed to be a book. This was Jerry Jarrett's journal of 2002. And so he just sent it in unedited and made it a book. So it's like you get random shit like this next thing that has no extra to it. They're like, what the fuck is he, who is this person? He says they're preparing for a meeting with Marcus, who is interested in being the new investor. Who the fuck is Marcus, you might ask? No fucking clue, except that he works in, and I quote, the closed circuit business. So no, they have not yet found their pretty little investor out of Dallas. They have found Marcus, though. And we'll see if Marcus pans out.
Well, we will indeed. Also, to get everybody up to speed, this is the second half of the marathon taping that took place a week or so ago in 2002 as a way to save money. Another way to save money is that the next show, and which was hyped up a lot during the show, is the Special X show, which is sort of a greatest hits of all the X Division matches that took place, with exclusive interviews with Low-Key, AJ Styles, and Jerry Lynn. These are the three people that are pushing as the top tier of the X Division.
So what Cyndi and I are going to do next week is we're going to take the recaps of all the matches that they're going to do on the show. We're just going to edit the audio that we have of those and splice it together into one weirdly done podcast with wraparounds by Cyndi and I. That is not going to happen.
No one wants to too much editing.
Yes, that is way more work than I'm willing to put into this.
So what are we going to do? We'll find out after we talk about episode 11.
Oh, so we're not going to tell them now. I think we told them before, so but
yeah,
sure. But now I'm going to I understand, like, because we talked about it last week. There was an injury to Ron Killings during his match, and it changed the booking of this week's show. However, in addition to not having any money to really do much, they also apparently didn't have any money to redo some announcer voiceovers, because this show, the attention to detail right out the window. And the funny thing is, this show was 1 hour and 57 minutes long. It was so long that the Fight Network / Anthem edit of the show that's up on the TNA Plus app could not even keep in the entire viewer discretion is advised intro that they have on every fucking show. And then the main event, they go off as soon as the main event ends. It's like, damn, they were running out of time here.
Heads up, that is exactly how the live show ends, because we'll say this again, Arya is watching the stuff off of TNA Plus. I downloaded torrents way back in the day. I'm watching the original live feeds of these pay-per-views. Now, so stuff that's missing from the TNA Plus shows, I have, which also led to me having to suffer through Malice versus Neo-Nazi Harris by myself.
Yes. I should point out that, especially if you're listening to the other shows, you'll know this, but I am not anti-torrent. I just bought the TNA Plus yearly subscription earlier this year when they were running a special on it. And so I figured, what the hell, and might as well use it. And hey, if that means I get to miss out on Malice versus Nazi Harris, then good for me. But on to the show. By the way, for those who listened to yesterday's show, as you're listening to this, yes, in the 15 minutes between ending the recording of that show and beginning the recording of this show, I did in fact go take a piss, like I told Trey I needed to do. So as long as everyone is aware that I am not sitting here with a full bladder because Cyndi's not letting me leave, that is not the case. But by the way, the show kicks off with Brian Lawler being harassed by Goldilocks over what Jeff Jarrett did. Lawler decided now was the time to say what the secret is, and Jeff Jarrett attacks him. And he informs Brian and Goldie that he's been jumped for the last damn time.
Makes sense, because Lawler's been jumping him. A lot of other people have been jumping him after he's jumped them. So, but the thing about with Lawler is that Lawler was the one who started this. This episode, we actually get a bit of clarity. Not a lot, though, but we get some of it. I chalked up simply revenge for Lawler jumping him last week, and he immediately go to our first match.
Yep. So we have Kid Cash versus the Amazing Red. Cash's name on the graphic is spelled with a $sign instead of the S. I want you to know that I will not be spelling it that way.
I didn't spell it that way either on my notes.
they had a problem with music on this show, not just the usual, their theme songs by and large suck kind of way, but in the fact that they did not know when to turn the damn songs off sometimes, has Red's music continued to play until the match has been going on for about 10 seconds. The match starts with about a minute of chain wrestling. Cash then shoves Red. Red doesn't want to be punked, so he bitch slaps Cash. Red knocks Cash to the outside and nearly kills himself with a flip dive over the top rope. But thankfully, Cash took a step back just in time to catch Red. Cash, having just saved Red's life, was not happy, so he threw a chair in his face, a la Sabu, because, it's 2002. We don't care what happened to people then.
DQ.
Back in the ring, Cash rakes the eyes of Red, so referee Scott Armstrong tells him to knock it off. Cash is like, "Don't tell me what to do," and rakes Red's eyes a second time. Red fires back with some kicks and ascends to the top rope, but Cash jumps up and does what is essentially a heel toss from the top rope for a 2 count. Cash gets some more 2 counts after a few hot moves, and then hits what is essentially the move that Abyss would call shock treatment for the win. The difference is Cash fell to his knees instead of his ass.
He calls it looked like it was off the middle rope. It looked like a version of the Muscle Buster, and he called it bankruptcy. How fitting for this show that a finishing move is called bankruptcy.
If I was Jerry Jarrett, I would not have allowed him to call a move bankruptcy on this show. It doesn't matter if he's been using that move for 10 years and it's always been called bankruptcy. This is not the time to do that. I wrote another fun X Division match to start the show. As we've said, you can say that, they do occasionally learn, because they have learned that a hot X Division match is the perfect way to start these shows. And I gave it a rating of a 6.0 out of 10.
Guess what?
What?
6 out of 10. We match.
Oh, it happens once in a while.
Yep. By the way, there's a little bit of story that happens here, like Cash kind of laid into Red a bit. During the match, Amazing Red kept on calling Kid Cash old.
I did not pick up on that.
It was like a little bit after the chain wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
So Cash didn't take too kindly to that, so he might have put a little bit extra pepper in that chair shot.
I just thought Cash was channeling his inner Sabu. After the match, Red sticks his hand out for a handshake, but Cash clotheslines him to the mat. While Cash celebrates, the SAT run down and attack him, hitting a Spanish fly on Cash. I would say this feud must continue, but when it was taped, there was no guarantee that this company would continue.
Right, and this feud could have continued because Cash was local. He lived in Johnson City, which isn't too far from Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
And the SATs and Amazing Red were cheap, so they'd be happy to come on down and at least get on TV.
Yep. And they always will be happy to take Greyhound to come work on TV.
Mm-hmm.
Tenay announces that Ron Killings will defend the world title against Brian Lawler tonight. Yes, the same Brian Lawler who has won 1 match in the 11 weeks that the show's been on the air, while Jarrett continues to be turned down despite winning more often than he doesn't. And like we said earlier, spoiler alert, this does not happen. And in fact, it gets even preposterous later, which we'll get to. Backstage, Goldilocks interviews Sonny Siaki, who has a match with Monty Brown today. Sonny tells Goldie not to be smart or else she will never have her way with him again. He also threatened to smack her around. Geez, I wonder which member of the TNA creative team was responsible for this promo.
By the way, I'd like to introduce the return of something.
Ooh, what?
The Sonny Siaki count.
Sonny Siaki says that he is bigger than the Super Bowl. Sonny Siaki says that Goldilocks won't be able to have sex with him anymore. Sonny Siaki is wrestling Monty Brown.
Guess how many times Sonny Siaki said Sonny Siaki in this interview?
Oh, just this interview. Okay, because we
Yeah.
see him a second time. So I'll be honest, I wasn't keeping count. I'm going to say 7.
13 times Sonny Siaki said his own name.
Holy fuck! I thought 7 was excessive. I mean, 7 would be excessive, but 13 is just, it's like someone told the Young Bucks to do 5 super kicks, and I'm like, fuck you, we're gonna do 13. So we did get the Sonny Siaki Monty Brown match. I ask this every week, but again, if Siaki hates being in Elvis so much, why does he continue wrestling in his Elvis costume and come out to his Elvis music? Before the match, Monty cuts a promo telling off Jeff Jarrett for using a chair and that he has chosen Jeff Jarrett to beat his ass. This match, the funny thing is, this match was basically a Monty Brown squash match. Like, it went 7 or 8 minutes, and Monty Brown was on offense for about 6.5 minutes of those 7 or 8 minutes.
Yep. I had that written down too.
Mike Tenay mentioned that Monty Brown played in the Super Bowl for the Buffalo Patriots. I hate him so much.
He quickly corrected himself, though.
Yes. Sonny does get a little bit of offense, but that doesn't last long. Brown is soon back on his feet and throwing Sonny around. Jeff Jarrett moseys on down and distracts Brown long enough for Siaki to hit a low blow and roll him up for the win. I noted while Siaki was getting his ass kicked the majority of the match that he'll probably win. And sure enough, he won.
Yep, because we can't put Monty Brown over.
This
we
was
don't
actually
see any money in him. We clearly see money in Sonny Siaki saying his name 1,000 times in promo.
Well, this was actually a loser leaves town for 18 months match. Because this is it for Monty Brown. He does come back in 2004, and actually at the end of 2004, he tries to get his revenge on Jeff Jarrett for costing him this match.
Wow.
I gave this match a 2.5 out of 10. Not the most exciting match we've seen in the last few weeks.
I thought it was like a big, meaty men slapping meat type of match.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of dug it.
Hey,
And plus, I'm not the biggest Sonny Siaki fan. I admit I was a big Monty Brown fan back in the day. Oh, by the way, they still haven't fixed the graphic.
Yes, he's still Monte Brown.
That's better than being Marquis Corbin.
By the way, what'd you give it for a rating?
I gave it a 5.
Nice. After the match, by the way, Bullet Bob came out with the bullet to confront Jarrett. Monte then attacks Jarrett until Brian Lawler comes in from out of the audience and chokes Jarrett with his belt.
Out of nowhere.
Yes, I was like, where the hell did he come from? Like, I mean, obviously he came from somewhere, but like, he was suddenly there on the other side of the guardrail. Like, holy fuck. Yeah. Goldilocks is backstage with Slash, who, if you're a South Park viewer, you understand that Slash is not a real person and is just, one of our parents dressed up like him. And he has a new friend who has not bathed in several months. His name is Cobain. We're informed. This was great. Cobain lives for suicide and to overdose.
I want to jump in on this. I live in Tacoma, essentially Seattle. So this was a play on Kurt Cobain, or Kurt Cobain, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
And this was, to me as a Seattleite, this was awful. He likes to overdose in all the pain in the world. And sure, Kurt Cobain did have drug problems, but a lot of the grunge acts of the time here in Seattle did have some drug problems. Soundgarden and stuff like that did. So yeah, I hated this gimmick. It should be noted that Cobain Cobain is actually Flash Flanagan, who was a staple in Memphis and USWA back in the day.
I note that later on. That's like Flash Flanagan's one of those people that if you read 90s Aftermags, you always saw him popping up in all the Tennessee indie companies at the time. We then go to
I think I have one of those magazines. Let's talk about this next match. I'm going to go find it. I think I know where it is.
Well, Cyndi goes to look for her one Aftermath from the 90s. I'm going to talk about the Backseat Boys versus Slash and Cobain versus the Hot Shots versus Chris Harris and James Storm in a 4-team elimination match. The Backseat Boys are Johnny Cashmere and Trent Acid. If you forget that, don't worry. Now, the whole point of this weird-ass match, this elimination match, is that the person who scores the final pinfall after the first 2 teams have been eliminated, when it gets on to the last 2, the person who wins the last pinfall will be the number 20 entrant in the Gauntlet for the Gold, which will be on September 18th. And that Gauntlet for the Gold, which we'll talk about, it'll be 10 teams, but they'll format like a 20-man Royal Rumble. That match will be to determine the new NWA Tag Team Champions. Spoiler alert, neither AJ Styles and Jerry Lynn nor Jeff Jarrett and Ron Killings will be in that match.
Oh, yeah. I gotta say, I was shocked that Trent Acid and Scotty Cashmere, the Backseat Boys, actually were on the show.
Yes. I said while you were gone, if anyone out there's listening didn't catch the names of the Backseat Boys, don't worry. You will never see them again on this show.
Another one and done.
Yep. The funny thing is, like, they're fighting for the number 20 slot in this gauntlet, and then they aren't even in the gauntlet. So I thought, ultimately, I thought they looked good. I imagine it's probably a money thing that they don't come back, which is funny because money stops being a problem in 3 weeks. The match breaks down into a Pier 6 brawl. Everyone dives onto each other. By the way, at one point, Trent Acid and Johnny Cashmere are in the ring with each other. And for some reason, instead of just one of them tagging out, they start running spots and reversals with each other. Whatever. We saw the scariest spot this week anyway, where everyone's doing a dive spot. Chase Stevens, the blonde-headed natural, for those who remember that, does his dive, but about halfway down, it looks like he decided to do a shooting star press, and he nearly kills himself and breaks his neck.
Ooh.
I don't know how he did not break his neck. He was folded up. We say folded up like an accordion, but it's like this, this random saying. No, Chase Stevens was folded up like an accordion. And he did not drop out of the match. He kept going here. But Slash hit a neck breaker on Trent to eliminate him. Chase gave Cobain a TKO onto his knee. That would suck for somebody who didn't want to die. Chris Harris hit what I called Chris Masters-like chops to Cassidy O'Reilly. Because you remember when Chris Masters actually got good, he started doing chops. They were very weird chops. And Chris Harris went into the future, saw those chops, and mimicked them.
Interesting.
Yes.
I didn't particularly care for them.
Yeah.
This match was weird.
Yeah. Cassidy O'Reilly goes for a lion salt. Harris gets his knees up, and Storm pins him with a swinging scorpion death drop. So we're down to 2 teams. Slash hit a whirly bird powerbomb for a 2 count. Cobain does a somersault flip off the top to Storm on the floor. Slash then throws both men of the ring and tags in instead of, Cobain actually making the cover and trying to win the match. For some reason, this brings up Primetime Brian Lee and Ron Harris, who joined the commentary team. They are pissed off they are not in this match. maybe they're afraid that Brian Lee will beat the shit out of fans again, like he did last week.
They brought that up during commentary.
Yes. In the ring, Harris wins with the move that would eventually be called the Catatonic. And so Chris Harris is number 20 in the gauntlet match. After the match, Ron Harris and Brian Lee run into the ring and attack everybody because all 8 of them ended up in the ring with Harris and Lee. And Harris and Lee single-handedly destroyed all 8 people in this match. So good job for getting over anybody.
Except for the 2 teams who are already over.
Yes. By the way, not only are the Backseat Boys not in the gauntlet match, neither are the Hot Shots. But there's actually a reason that they get the Hot Shots out of that match. But we'll get to that next, well, not next week, but in 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm. I enjoyed this match, by the way.
Yes. I gave it a 3.5 out of 10.
I gave it a 7.
Yeah. It's another one of those times you look the match twice as much as I did.
Yep.
Chase Stevens, by the way, the good news is he did not break his neck. Don't know how, but he did. By the way, Mike Tenay needs to fire whomever his sources are because his sources told him that Jeff Jarrett was in Bullet Bob Armstrong's office. They were not in the office. Bullet Bob was walking down a hallway and Jeff Jarrett ran up to him. That is not his office. Anyway, Bullet Bob, he tells Bullet Bob to get his ship together, and thankfully I rewatched this promo a second time for a reason I'll tell you in a second, because I thought he told Bullet Bob to get his shit together with a T, which made the rest of the promo make no sense. But no, he said ship with a P as in Peter. Bullet Bob said Jarrett will get everything he deserves. Jeff said he'll take care of the Bullet, then take care of Bullet Bob. Now, in the background, someone comes from behind a curtain. So I'm like, ooh, Easter egg. So I rewind to see who it was, and maybe it's something quirky or whatever. And no, it was just some random production assistant. And for some reason, they cannot retape this segment here on this taped show.
Man, the budget was so tight they probably couldn't reuse the tape.
Probably. It's like these are all one and done segments, I guess.
So who's directing this show?
I'm afraid to ask. Keith Mitchell in the truck.
Woof.
We then get Miss TNA Bruce versus April Hunter.
Lord.
Yep, it's another Bruce match. He cuts a promo before the match talking about his penis and says Tenay's wife hates him. April Hunter is not half the woman he is. We note that April is a fitness model and has been in Playboy, which would qualify you to be the WWE Women's Champion from like 2007 to 2015, but doesn't qualify you to be Miss TNA. Now, I asked Cindy about this earlier because, like we said, Cindy's got the live feeds. I got the TNA Plus app. There were like 3 people chanting that Bruce enjoys sucking dick. However, you could barely hear it, and I wouldn't even have noticed it except Anthem bleeped it. So you suck bleep, you suck bleep. And it was throughout the whole match, which made it really noticeable. And I'd ask you, did they bleep it on the live feed, and did you even notice what they were chanting?
Oh, I noticed what they were chanting, and it was all throughout the match. It was also all throughout his promo. Also, I don't think this was bleeped. I want to know if this was bleeped on your feed. There was also a chant of "He's a homo." Was that bleeped?
I did not notice that chant.
Ooh, yeah, that was audible in the live feed as well. This match was weird. I will say though, I am happy that chair guy from last week made a cameo.
Yes. So by the way, Bruce does a springboard sunset flip, which I imagine is really hard to do when you're wearing an evening gown. And then he hits a power bomb to April and retains the title. And we'll say that Bruce had a harder time defeating the butch woman in the crowd 2 weeks ago than he had against April Hunter, who was allegedly a trained professional wrestler.
And I'm not alleged, she is.
Yes.
Mainly worked independence in your neck of the woods.
Nice.
Mainly with her boyfriend at the time, Slick Wagner Brown.
And speaking of Slick Wagner Brown, Bruce, for some reason, despite being gay and April Hunter being a woman, Bruce decides to take her shirt off. And Slick Wagner Brown, who's referred to as Silk Wagner Brown, ran in because he could not allow his girlfriend to have her breast shown on television. By the way, in case you're thinking, well, this could lead to a Slick Wagner Brown Bruce match, because I mean, Bruce is a moderately competent wrestler. I mean, he's not the greatest, but if you put him in a serious match, maybe he'd have a decent match. And you might be thinking, that's what they're building here. Stop thinking that. Slick Wagner Brown will never be back, except for one time in 2018. He wrestled in TNA. He wrestled somebody named Axel Lennox, whoever the fuck that is.
Oh no, I have Cage Match up because I wanted to look up, does April Hunter stick around? The answer is
I don't think
once.
So. Really?
There we have April Hunter again, but after that she mainly works independence in New England, Japan, and also what a lot of people, she worked WXW.
Mm-hmm.
She's done Ring of Honor. But what she is also kind of known for is WEW, Women's Extreme Wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and she wrestled a lot during the early to mid 2000s. And then just kept on going until 2014 in Calgary, Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada, which of course is the capital of Canada, and wrestled in a mixed tag match with Mike McSugar and defeated Jada and Michael Allen Richard Clark. And that was in 2014, and that was her last match before retiring.
Did you say Regina is the capital of Canada?
It was a joke.
Okay. I'm like, isn't it Ottawa?
It's Ottawa. April Hunter, if Vince had any eyes on her, or John Laurinaitis had any eyes on her, she would have been signed to WWE, I would think.
She was in the wrong lingerie catalog for Johnny Ace to have seen her.
Yeah, she was actually in Playboy, so probably could have seen her.
By the way, you were talking about Amber O'Neil wrestling, and I was like, was it? WrestleMania 28 weekend, there was one of the many indie shows at the hotel I was staying at. They had a tribute to Championship Wrestling from Florida, and I'm like, Leilani Kai wrestled somebody, wasn't it Amber O'Neil? And sure enough, I looked it up. It was in fact Amber O'Neil, who is also April Hunter. Actually, no, not April Hunter, but it's Amber O'Neil. And that match, I remember, they spat their gum at. And by the way, don't ask what that had anything to do with April Hunter, except I thought for a minute that it was April Hunter, and I looked it up and it wasn't. But yeah, so somebody named Amber O'Neil was on that show and not April Hunter. But yeah, they spat their gum at me. How dare they?
Fun times.
Yes, fun times are had by all. By the way, I gave the match a 0.
I gave it a 3.
You are definitely more uh
Only because I thought April Hunter was good.
Yeah.
Bruce was off.
I don't think I've ever given any Bruce match higher than a 0.
I think it's out of principle on that front.
Yeah. Backstage, Goldilocks is interviewing the other Flying Elvises about their match with the SAT. Sonny Siaki walked in, and I'm afraid to ask what the Sonny Siaki count was here. He makes a steroid reference, saying there's no hard feelings, and says if they take their vitamins and say their prayers, they may prematurely lose their hair. Ha ha ha. And then Goldilocks said that the Elvises are flying solo tonight, flying solo in this 2-on-2 tag team match.
I can't wait for we get Scott Hudson to do these backstage promos.
Already tired of Goldilocks?
I'm tired of her. However, I will say that there is a lot of foreshadowing for 2004 on this show alone. We talked about Monty Brown being in TNA because of him being screwed out of that title match with Ron Killings last week, thanks to Jeff Jarrett, or the match with Sonny Siaki this week. Goldilocks gets her revenge on Sonny Siaki in 2004. What type of revenge am I talking about? We'll find out in 2 years' time.
Oh, God. We're still going to be doing this?
Yeah.
Okay. So we got
By the way, you mentioned the Sonny Siaki count?
Yes.
I want to preface something. The Sonny Siaki count only goes up when Sonny Siaki says Sonny Siaki, not when anybody else says Sonny Siaki.
Well, of course, Sonny Siaki will always talk about Sonny Siaki, but other people also talk about Sonny Siaki, but that shouldn't count because only Sonny Siaki can truly talk about Sonny Siaki to improve the Sonny Siaki count.
So guess the count.
Okay, so it's not even his promo. So I guess 7, and I was way off the last time. So I'm going to say 5.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yes. Yes. This was the Price is Right. I win both showcases.
No, you just win the $500. You get to come up on stage and play a pricing game, which is the SATs versus Yang and Estrada.
Oh, it used to be $100. So, inflation, it went up to 5.
It went up to 5, I think around 98.
Shows you how much Price is Right I've watched.
Cheap plug, watch the Barker Era channel on Pluto or wherever it is.
Yes. Did you note what Don West said about ladder matches?
Oh, God. What did he say?
So they're talking about this ladder match. Like, they're bringing it up all the time on this show, which is going to make things even funnier later on. But Don starts randomly talking about how ladder matches should be outlawed because of how dangerous they are. I'm like, it's nice that after an hour of talking about how great this match will be, Don West is now arguing that it should be banned. And
I'd like to point out that I'm thinking of ladder matches past at this point. I don't think we've had many major injuries off of a ladder match to this point.
I don't think so, but I mean, it's like we've already had the, all the TLC matches, and we, Edge, ended up having to get major neck surgery in no small part to a lot of that. We had the TLC where Benoit did the diving headbutt through a table and ended up breaking his neck. So I mean, a lot of it was never so much the injuries during the ladder match, but they definitely sped up the wear and tear on people's bodies. Like when Edge was standing atop a 20-foot ladder, speared Jeff Hardy off of the Delia Bob at WrestleMania.
Yep. And this is before Armageddon 2006.
Oh, yeah. You know, Joey Mercury's face is A-OK in 2002.
Has Joey Mercury even started wrestling in 2002?
Oh, yeah. We saw him on this show a few weeks ago.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot.
He was also in ECW at the very end of their run. Don West is really picking up the carny aspects of being in wrestling, as he talks about how people on the street have stopped him to ask what Brian Lawler is up to. I will bet every dollar I have that has never happened.
I would say this is correct because all this happened, in the past 2 episodes?
Yeah. If I had met Don West on the street at that time, I would not have asked him about Brian Lawler.
No, I would have asked him because I'm from Seattle. Can you give me any more of those Griffey rookie cards?
Griffey was great. So the Elvises hit a pair of acai moonsaults to the outside, where the Maximos are waiting with arms wide open. Hey, if I listen to more Elvis songs, that have used them during these reviews, but alas, I didn't, so I don't. Tenay talks about how the Maximos took a Greyhound bus to Nashville a month ago for the first match, and now they don't need to use a bus because they fly on a jet. That seems a little excessive. Plus, Jerry wasn't paying for a normal coach ticket at this point, so who the fuck was paying for their private jet to and from Nashville? Estrada hits what Tenay, I could swear he called the lumpy tender, which was a neck breaker off the ropes. But after a few seconds, I realized he said "love me tender," but damn, it sounded like lumpy tender. Plus, I think that would have been a better name for the move. Then in the we just talked about at the beginning of this match how Don West said the ladder match should be banned, and we talked about how for the first hour of the show they've done nothing but talk about the ladder match. In the middle of this match, out of nowhere, Don West exclaims, "I just remembered we have a triple ladder match tonight." I'm like, for the love of Christ, you and Tenay have talked about nothing else the entire show. How the hell did you forget? And then Tenay started acting like this was breaking news. I'm like, what drugs were they taking during the Yang and Estrada promo?
All of them.
Oh God!
I wouldn't be surprised if they did them during this match because Jesus Christ.
Estrada hits one of the Maximos with a clothesline and then motions to the crowd that he's going to take his clothes off. The fans, who at this point have been here for 3.5 hours, did not make a peep. We did get a series of hot moves. The finish saw the Maximos go for the Spanish fly on Yang, but Sonny Siaki ran down and shoved the Maximos down. Yang missed the Yang time, but then scored the win with a twisting suplex off the top rope. Another really good X Division match. I gave it a 5.5 out of 10.
I gave it a 4. I did not get into this match. I couldn't get there. I'll be honest, I've seen too much of the SATs.
I don't think it's ending anytime soon.
No, it's not. But oddly enough, Sonny Siaki coming out and helping him is interesting. Maybe they patch things up, or like Don West said, is he gonna lord this over them by saying, "You're nothing without me"? Because if I wasn't there, you guys would have lost.
I imagine it'll be the latter.
Yeah, pretty much. We'll find out in 3 weeks' time. Now the segment of the night.
I noted that this show still has 40 fucking minutes to go at this point. Like, who the hell did I piss off? Goldilocks shook her ass and walked to the ring to interview Brian Lawler. Goldie asks him what is going on with Jeff Jarrett. Brian stares at her boobs while talking about her ass and her breasts, calling her a $2 whore. And of course, we know Vince Russo would never script a promo where people would say such mean things about women. This is
Oh, heaven
obviously a
forfend.
Jerry Jarrett script.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Lawler runs Goldie off. He calls the fans morons and demands complete and total silence. Of course, while he's ranting, we can see a set of bleachers that have like 10 people total on it. He then gives Jeff Jarrett 5 seconds to get his ass to the ring. And of course, Jeff doesn't come down in the 12 seconds it took Brian Lawler to count to 5. And I should note that Brian's counting went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I may have to go back and insert like a longer pause in there because, man, he got to 4 pretty quickly. It's possible he forgot that 5 comes after 4.
Oh, he's forgotten a lot of stuff this night.
So Ron Killings comes out and announces that he does not have a concussion, which led to one of many lines of the night where Mike Tenay says he didn't think Truth would be here this week. Like, what the hell? You just told us he has a world title match that you were plugging earlier in the show. Why wouldn't he be here?
He said it would take more than a concussion to stop him. He wants a piece of Lawler after Lawler laid out Truth with the chair. Lawler says it was an accident, but Truth isn't buying it because he knows Lawler. He knows he would do this.
Yes. And then we hear that it has something to do with Lawler's girlfriend. And we see a pretty girl sitting at ringside, and there was a guy next to her taking pictures of the action. Lawler gets pissed and beats up the photographer and then steals his girlfriend away and runs away with her. Dude,
by the way, the cameraman was a photographer for TNA.
Yes. He had the TNA staff member shirt on and everything. If you don't want people hitting on your girlfriend, don't bring her to the matches. You know, just telling. So by the way, that was what replaced our NWA title match. It went like 3 or 4 minutes, so you can only imagine the amount of time that the world title match would have gotten. So we got
against Brian Lawler, so it was probably the 3 or 4 minutes.
Yes. We then got Jeff Jarrett versus the Bullet. The announced Bullet from Parts Unknown, and as I always ask when someone's announced from Parts Unknown, where did they send the check? And how did you get a plane home? Well, this is the death of TNA. No one is flying home. They re-aired the Bullet beating up Jarrett last week, and somehow I missed Don West screaming that the Bullet's Viagra had kicked in. I got to tell you, like, there's a lot of things I missed about last week's show. Apparently, I missed whatever the Bullet was doing to Jeff Jarrett other than punching him in the head.
Yeah. Are you sure this pay-per-view isn't on until after 10 p.m.? In some areas where it takes over for C-SPAN?
So Jeff Jarrett beats up Steve Armstrong wearing a mask. I mean, the Bullet. He beats up the Bullet, beating him all over the ringside area, over the guardrail, into the crowd, back across. I noted that there was somebody who looked like they were 14 years old in the second row drinking a beer.
Welcome to Nashville.
Yes. Jarrett, the despicable heel, has people hand him chairs to beat on the beloved babyface Bullet with. Back in the ring, Bullet hits an inverted atomic drop. It's so easy for Gorilla Monsoon to say that. Why was it hard for me? But Jarrett punches him in the dick, and then handcuffs him to the top rope, which makes me ask you the obvious question: why does Jeff Jarrett carry handcuffs in his knee pads?
He's a kinky bastard.
I mean, to be fair, Bullet did take Viagra last week, so maybe he felt for his own protection he should be ready to handcuff Steve Armstrong to the ropes here. Jeff grabs a chair to clock the Bullet with, but Bullet Bob runs in to stop him, so Jarrett clocks him with a chair. The referee calls for the bell, and that's that. I think it was a no contest. That's at least what I've written as the result.
I think it was a no contest either. I will look it up.
By the way, after the match, Jarrett hits Bullet Bob with another chair shot while the crowd asks him to do it one more time. And then before Jeff Jarrett could do something truly dastardly, like take the Bullet's mask off, TNA security ran in and dragged Jarrett away. And actually, I think this is Bullet Bob's last appearance until the Spike TV era.
I think he's back in a few weeks' time.
Okay. Either way, he's not here for much longer.
No, because things go to hell. I will say this for the Bullet. This is a one and done. Yay. I'd like to rule that we don't do a score for this. This was essentially a segment.
I gave it a 3.5, but I'll acquiesce to your lack of a score. I do wonder sometimes, how do wrestlers come up with normal sounding names, like real names that could actually be the name of a person? Like, how did Joseph Melton James come up with Bob Armstrong?
Probably saw, like, Stretch Armstrong was around for a long time, so we probably thought Armstrong would be a good name for a babyface, which is what he worked most of the time, which was what Bullet worked most of the time. So
True.
Why not?
Then how did he get Bob? Like, why not Joe Armstrong?
Because he wanted to, I don't know, not have any part of his real name be known in the business known as professional wrestling.
All right, then. So Don West does the hard self, the Special X recap show next week. In the interest of fairness, like, I looked at the matches they're gonna, show highlights of. It's like, it's probably the best match or the best show that they do, because it's like, oh, remember all those great X Division matches we talk about? They're gonna air all of them next week. Now, of course, you can't just air like 10 full matches next week because the damn show is only 2 hours long. So it's, highlights, of everything.
Right. I want to say something about this. Here's the funny part. Like, you mentioned about how they couldn't go back and redub in audio.
Mm-hmm.
I like to chalk that up to laziness, because after security holds back Jarrett, there is an immediate hard fade, and we get to the Don West hype package. And that was very jarring.
So they do that a lot though, like, because they'll be doing whatever, and suddenly we're looking at 5 seconds of the dancers dancing with the NWA crawl at the bottom, where I can't imagine like any of these NWA territories got any kind of a bump by having their shows be speeded past on the bottom of the screen like it's the NFL draft.
No, because, like, as we said earlier, like, during this time, only around 10 to 20,000 people bought the pay-per-views weekly.
And that was on a really good. Well, we get our main event. Now, we watch a lot of crap, sometimes with these shows. And I remember listening to Brian and Vinny recap, the TNA shows briefly last year. And I'm like, maybe all this AJ Styles, Jerry Lynn stuff, it's not as good as I remember. Because I said I watched about the first year of these shows like a decade or so ago. And it's like the AJ, Jerry Lynn low-key stuff was like the only reason to watch most weeks, because it was all such good shit. You kind of had to put your brain on pause, though, with the tag team partners who hate each other gimmick. But, the matches themselves would be great. And sure enough, this fucking match, X Division champion low key, Jerry Lynn, AJ Styles in the triple ladder match, this has been built up since week number 1. And while I'm happy for everyone involved that TNA did not go out of business, if this had been the last ever TNA match, they would have went out with one truly fantastic final match.
Yep.
Low key just starts the match kicking both of them over and over again. Whatchamacallit, Jerry Lynn uses a beautiful surfboard move, and the fans show their appreciation for the fine technical wrestling we're having by chanting, "We want ladders. We want ladders." And so this is one of those times where we needed to ignore the crowd.
Yep.
Lynn puts a lion tamer on AJ Styles until low key kicks him, which just causes Jerry Lynn to ask for another and another and another until Key finally kicks him hard enough to break the move. AJ was probably wishing Key had kicked him that hard the first time. Then we actually don't have a ladder in the ring until about 6 minutes into the match, which I had to laugh because I watched All In earlier today. They had a ladder match where the first ladder got in the ring in less than a minute. And that's not even an AO diss on AEW. No, it's modern day ladder matches. The opening spot is everyone runs outside, grabs a ladder, and throws it into the ring.
Yep.
You know. But let's see here. Just like trying to scan through my notes here. Like I said, we do get the ladder 6 minutes in. I might as well just go to the finish here, because for fuck's sake, this again, just one fantastic, amazing spot after another. So 3 ladders are set up in the ring. All 3 men are climbing. They're fighting each other off. He puts on the Dragon Sleeper on AJ. Lynn breaks it up, sends AJ tumbling to the outside. Jerry Lynn and Low Key are fighting on the ladder. And then Jerry Lynn gives Low Key a fucking cradle pile driver off of the ladder. There is such a fucking... There's an element of danger with a pile driver that unfortunately gets kind of ignored. And I thought about that earlier today because, spoiler alert, in case you didn't watch it, MJF gives Will Ospreay a pile driver, but he holds him low, and Ospreay is almost a Steve Austin moment. Ospreay went head first off of the mat on this pile driver. Thankfully, he appears to be okay. But it's what I'm thinking. There is such, an element of danger when it comes to a pile driver that, even the safest of workers like Jerry Lynn is, shit can go wrong. But this was about as perfect of a pile driver that you could possibly do from about 5 feet in the air. And it was, like I said, it was just a fucking nutty way to finish the match. And of course, Lynn popped to his feet, ran up the ladder, grabbed the belt, and won. And we've had 2 other ladder matches so far in TNA, and they've basically been meh at best. This was worthy of the name ladder match. This was one of those fucking all-time classics. It's unfortunate that it's a match that nobody remembers, even in the annals of great TNA matches, because this was fucking great.
Yeah.
And I gave it, in my opinion, it's a perfect match. Even with the crowd doing their damnedest to ruin it at the start, I gave it a perfect 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10, no notes.
Yeah. Honestly, if you've never seen this, and I know, you might be like, well, I just watched the AEW ladder match. I've watched WWE ladder matches. In modern day, it's hard to go back and rewatch a Primitive ladder match from 2002 because, Primitive, right after all the TLC matches. But go out of your way to go back and watch this. If you don't want to be like me and pay for TNA Plus, I guarantee this fucking match is out there somewhere on the internet. Go find it and watch it. They'll thank us later. But TNA dies with Jerry Lynn as the X Division champion. You know.
Oh, if you want to watch this match, it is up on TNA's YouTube page.
Yeah,
the
I would
full match.
I would have been shocked if it wasn't. And like we said earlier, the show is going so long, we immediately go off the air, and it's like, I don't know how the hell, because I think the last time we did a tape show, I think it was the same thing where it's like, it went like an absurdly long time. It's like right up against the hour, and it's like, how is this an issue on a taped show?
You had to squeeze so much.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, this was a really fun. It was a really great match to end what, while it wasn't nearly as good as last week's, I think it was still one of the better TNA shows we've seen.
Yep.
So average match quality, all of my matches averaged out to a 4.43. For overall enjoyment, I gave it a 6 out of 10. Like I said, I did not enjoy it as much as last week. I get there are more important things to worry about, but the lack of attention to detail on this show was maddening. And then future build, which is basically based on this match, how much do I want to buy next week's show for $9.95? I gave it a 3.0 because, like, for a number of reasons, at least which is next week is a recap show. But there is that, like, wow, like we've seen a lot of great wrestling, and it's all going to be replayed on next week's show. It gives you a little bit of a desire to watch it, but not a big one. Plus, even if you ignore that, the only thing scheduled for the September 18th show is a 10-team gauntlet match, which does not make me jump for joy.
No, because the original gauntlet for the gold for the world title was a cluster.
Yeah. And now you're going to add a whole bunch of green guys in a 20-man battle royal. But overall rating 4.48. So a decidedly thumbs in the middle episode of TNA.
Yep, the quality of the ladder match, the quality of the Kid Cash Amazing Red match is kind of offset by the awfulness of Bruce and we'll say the Jeff Jarrett Bullet segment and Brian Lawler not living down the perception that he is the biggest bitch in wrestling.
Sonny Siaki thinks that Brian Lawler is the biggest bitch in pro wrestling.
Yep.
That's why Sonny Siaki is a future champion in this company, and Sonny Siaki says that Brian Lawler is not a future champion in this company.
But we will not be talking about Sonny Siaki for the next 2 weeks.
Oh, I actually kind of figured he was on one of those shows. But yeah, we're not going to be talking about TNA 2002 at all. We're going to be fast forwarding 2 years to TNA 2004. There used to be a show on Fox Sports Net, which used to also be a network, and it was called the Best Damn Sports Show Period, which was basically a talk show about sports. And this was when Impact debuted. Their first year was on Fox Sports Net, and this was a crossover promotional thing where they were doing a 2-night TNA special where they were doing matches and angles with the people on the Best Damn Sports Show Period. And so that's what we're going to be talking about the next 2 weeks. We want to keep doing the weekly pay-per-views on the same day, on the anniversary of the show. So our next weekly pay-per-view is going to be on the 18th, but on the 4th, we're going to do the first Best Damn TNA show ever. And then on the 11th, we're going to do the second Best Damn TNA show ever. And plus, I'm still going to talk about Jerry Jarrett's book. So.
Sounds like a good time. By the way, I just want to tell you that we're we're not just going to talk about the matches on the show. It's the entire show we're going to talk about. It's an hour long, so it's going to be fun for us because we're not doing a 2-hour show every week. It's just going to be a 1-hour show, so it can be a bit compact. But there's a lot to unpack here because we actually have improvement in TNA.
I mean, there's a lot. It's almost like two entirely different companies between, this what we're watching and 2004 TNA. Isn't there also like an Ultimate X match?
Main event of night 1.
There you go. Random ass. The first Ultimate X match that Cyndi and I will ever discuss on this show is not the one that Don Callis set up. It's this random ass one on the Best Damn Sports Show, period.
And we're going to see the return.
Oh, God.
Of Puppet.
I knew you were going to say that. Because isn't that refereed by Tom Arnold?
Yep.
I just remember the promo where Tom Arnold talking about wrestling with big women, and now he's going to be in the ring with little men. You see, it's funny because he used to be married to Roseanne Barr.
Yep.
And she's fat, you see.
Mm-hmm. We're going to have some fun with this.
I think we will too. But that's going to do it for this week's show. Before we finish things up, do you have anything else you want to say to our fine listening audience? Anything else you want to plug?
Yeah. In 2 days from now, I get older.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
I
turned 38.
I was going to say, and you're not supposed to ask a woman this, but how old are you turning?
38.
Why are both my co-hosts younger than me?
And yet you look younger than me.
Thank you. I don't know if I told the story on this show before, but I've always looked young for my age. As a matter of fact, and this is a true ass story, I swear to you. When I was 23 years old, I was walking to work because I didn't have a car at the time. So I'm walking to work when I get stopped by the police who demand to know why I'm not in school. And I'm like, I'm 22, 23 years old. I've been out of school for years. And they wanted to see my ID to prove it. And I didn't have my ID because I'm like, why would I need to just carry on my damn ID with me, especially when I'm just walking to work? And so they took me to work so someone could verify that I was, in fact, not in high school anymore, and that I was, in fact, a grown-ass adult.
Wow.
Yes. Gotta say, sadly, not the only time I've been in the back of a cop car. But we'll save that story for another week. But
see you next week for Best Damn.
See you next week for Best Damn. See you in 3 weeks for the return of TNA. Hey, watch Special X next week. I don't know why you would, but why the hell not? Take care.
Bye.